We finally did it. We finally found a lectionary reading that I'm not going to mess with at all. It exists. It only took like 2.5 years, but it does exist. That will not, however, stop me from criticizing the fact that we don't get our context, because this whole passage opens up with, on the third day. Of what? Is it the third day of the month? Is it the third day of the week? Is it the third day of creation? Is Jesus still a baby and only 3 days old, but surprisingly articulate and surprisingly sexy? The answer to that is back in the last chapter, and a reminder that the chapters and verse numbers are a little bit arbitrary. Days 1 and 2 are back there, and so is day 0, which is John the Baptist testifying, like we talked about last week, Jesus being baptized by John, which we sort of talked about last week, except that Luke doesn't want John there. Days 1 and 2, Jesus is out and about, and he's collecting disciples, like he found a cool rock on the side of the road, and wants to take it home with him, for a total of 4 named cool rocks, disciples. Which brings us to day 3, where Jesus' mother, Mary, has a wedding invitation that presumably includes her family, definitely her son, possibly Joseph, but if he's here, he doesn't talk or do anything worth mentioning. So, Jesus goes to a wedding and brings his disciples with him. We all know this story. They're at the wedding doing wedding things, and then the wine runs out. As a former caterer, oh my God. And Mary brings it to Jesus' attention. Jesus wants no part of this. Not his wedding, not his wine, not his circus, not his clowns, not his problem. And besides, the way that the verb ran out is written in the Greek, this kind of thing happens all the time. And it typically means that the party is just over, so people can go home. Introverts, rejoice. We don't get any moral commentary on it either, but we can assume that as the guests begin to realize that their glasses are no longer being filled, they begin to acknowledge that it's all done, and potentially some of the joy and exuberance and woohoo starts to fade. Weddings are, after all, a celebration, and when the celebration is over, so too is some of the excitement. Still, not Jesus' circus, not Jesus' clowns. His argument is one that makes more sense for John than the other Gospels, but also kind of speaks to the whole flow of his ministry. Number 1, not his problem. Number 2, his time has not yet come, which presumably means that the time for his active ministry and the doing of miracles and the prophesying and all the stuff he does isn't meant to start yet. He's not ready. Or the world isn't ready. Maybe God isn't ready. Who knows? Somebody isn't ready. Mary, however, does not care. She collects some servants and she gives them a phrase that the church will keep a hold of for centuries. Do whatever he tells you. 2 things here. 1, Mary is absolutely certain that this is a problem that Jesus can solve whether he wants to or not. 2, she's also absolutely certain that despite his grumbling about it, he is going to solve this problem and get the party or the joy back on track. Ready or not, here we come. And Jesus, probably resignedly, looks around or walks around or something, and standing there somewhere are some jugs that are used for purification rituals, and these are pretty big. They hold about 30 gallons each. For context, my standard-sized hot water heater holds 40. So that's a lot of water. Usually, these jars are used for people to wash the dust and dirt off of themselves when they've traveled and sort of prepare their bodies for coming into a new place. If you want to hear more about that, talk to me later. The purity laws are fascinating. But right now, Jesus is telling them to fill these jars, presumably empty and not holding any dirty water, with new water, drinkable or not, and the servants do what they're told, to the utmost. They fill each jar to the brim. And when they are done, Jesus tells them to draw some water from the jar and to bring a sample to the person in charge of the banquet, who, mysteriously, does not seem to realize that there's a wine shortage at all. He also doesn't know where this wine came from, just that it's wine and it's meant to be served next. And it's fabulous. There's a tiny parenthetical here about the servants, because they, despite being the lowest of station at this party, are not ignorant to what's going on. And that seems noteworthy and emblematic of Jesus' ministry too. The servants drew the water. They know where this wine came from, and they know that it wasn't wine a few seconds ago. The people who have the least and matter the least, according to the regular narrative, are here the only ones who really know a miracle has happened. And as a former caterer, it doesn't matter who the guests are. They can be pastors, they can be theologians, they can be politicians, they can be just random people off the street. 9 times out of 10, they're going to treat the servers as though they're lesser people. That was true a year ago when I was still catering, and is probably still true today, as I don't think that we've had a societal shift in how we think of servers differently as a society. So imagine for a second that your waitress from the diner last week knows that Jesus just turned a rock into that pancake back in the kitchen. For you, it's still just a pancake. For her, someone that society tends to look down on, it's a miracle in more ways than one. Back to the gospel story, though I promise no less commentary on hierarchies. The banquet boss calls over the group, who presumably was in charge of which wine was served when, or maybe his family brought the wine or bought the wine or something. And the banquet boss tells him he's done it all backward. Normally, you serve the good wine first, because people are still sober enough to know what it tastes like. And then, when they can't taste anymore, you serve the cheap stuff, because they don't care now anyway. No one cares, except maybe the servants. So he should have served this earlier, when people who mattered still cared, and would have been impressed by this change-up in wine service when they were ready for the goodness and the miraculous to happen. Not now, when they couldn't care less. That's a bit of a double meaning, maybe, because at this point, in this first miracle, it becomes emblematic for the rest of Jesus' ministry, and perhaps tells us a little bit more about who that ministry was for. Wine has been flowing. People at this time have been believing in God, but Jesus is a new thing. God doing a new thing. New thing, new wine. That nobody was ready for, except maybe Mary and the servants. The guests aren't ready because they're already drunk and desensitized to the needs of those around them and to the possibility of something new. The banquet boss wasn't ready because this is not the way things are done. It's not proper, it's not the tradition, it's not how it's supposed to be. Jesus isn't ready because he's not ready, he's not prepared, it's not time, so there. Ready or not, here we come. Ready or not is the title of this sermon, by the way, because I don't think we are frequently ready for how we encounter God in any of the triune godness, Creator, Christ, Spirit, in our lives and in our world. That's us individually and the church as a whole. We don't feel ready sometimes because new things are scary, even if they're good. And sometimes new things mean that we have to let go of things that we have done before in order to embrace the newness. And that's even more scary, and a little bit, or a lot of it, sad. We don't feel ready because we don't think our time has come. We aren't prepared for this, actually. We don't have the skills or the ability to talk in front of people, my hands are still shaking, or enough resources, or maybe it won't work out. We don't feel ready because we don't know that it was a problem. In our own little worlds, we often don't hear so much from people who are not like us. That's how life just works a lot of times, and it's how the news works too. We don't know that other people need things because we don't hear their stories. We don't learn about their lives. We don't feel ready because someone else's issue, financial issue or justice issue or systemic issue, food issue, transportation issue, medical issue, is not our problem. We ask, like Jesus at the start of the story, what concern is it to you or to me? Not our circus, not our clowns. Ready or not. We get to do it anyway. We get to look for new ways that God is working in the world, even if they are completely different from what is known or familiar We get to look for what is new, look for what is good, and look for what God is doing. And friends, I suspect an unfortunate truth that you have already learned at least once in your life is that we don't always get to be ready for what we're supposed to be doing. In the case of churches, the church capital C, or denominations, even our own little houses of worship, sometimes we never feel ready because we're afraid that we're going to have to change too much. The problem is that bucket of water is already wine. Either we pick up the bucket and serve it, even if we're not ready, or we miss it completely. We get to listen whether we're ready to do something or not. Listen to the people who don't sound like us, look like us, come from the same place that we do. As a reminder, you're listening to a tattooed Presbyterian Northerner right now. And whether you are ready to do something, you still have to listen. Listen to the stories and learn about people's lives. And a lot of times, that's when we find out that the circuses and the clowns look kind of familiar. Ready or not, the things that other people are concerned about, those medical issues, financial issues, justice issues, transportation issues, water issues, sooner or later will affect us too. You've doubtless heard that poem by Martin Niemöller. First they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist, etc., etc., etc. And then when they came for me, there was no one left to speak for me. We may not feel ready. We may not ever feel ready. Like I said, hands still shaking. But we can take comfort in knowing that Jesus didn't feel ready either. And that when, ready or not, we take that chance on something new, we may very well find that God and the miracle were already there. Amen.
Amen.